Hello, and thank you for listening. We're Suzanne Henwood and Liz Peel-Yates, and this is our podcast, Real Wisdom. Real Wisdom is a podcast series exploring the complexity, depth, and reality of using mBIT coaching to thrive in the real world.
We're not offering medical, legal, or financial advice, but we are having real, deep, uplifting conversations with amazing people who have persevered through adversity or challenge and who still keep smiling. If you want to know more about how mBIT is changing the world one life at a time, listen in. Thank you. Hello and welcome to the Real Wisdom podcast with Liz Peel-Yates and Suzanne Henwood. This is our fourth episode, and today we're joined by the amazing Emilie Janson. Emilie is our very first TEDx talk, not TikToker, as I said earlier. We've done an incredible TED Talk from worrier to warrior that I hope we'll hear a little bit about. Emilie is an mBIT master coach. She's an NLP master practitioner and a clinical NLP practitioner. Thank you, Emilie. When we first started this, things were a little bit different. And as I was saying earlier, I think now more than ever, what is needed is real conversations. We are all in a state of shock. We're all in a state of turmoil, however we're experiencing it. And what Suzanne and I are really, really interested in and curious about is how people use mBraining in their real lives, how they thrive through their challenges and their adversities. And so we just wanted to have a lovely conversation with you this morning about how you've used mBraining in your life and how it's helped you overcome and move through. So welcome.
Thank you.
Please, can you tell us about a story or a situation that mBraining's really helped you?
Sure. It's more of a life journey, to be honest. It's to do with my skin, and it's been the reason also why I had such a pull to share the message from worrier to warrior, how to live a more fulfilling life. It's really to understand on a much deeper level what is going on in your head and body when you have eczema, because it can be a very frustrating journey. And that is the reason why I got into coaching the first time, was to understand what's going on here, because surely antihistamine and cortisone can't just be the end of this. I want to understand more. And so I got a lot of tools first with NLP. That was great. But then when I went to New Zealand in 2016, that's when I met Suzanne as well. I did the mBIT coach cert, and I was mind blown because I really started to understand on a more neurological level what was going on, and so that my head was wanting to take responsibility for everything, and to understand actually that my gut played a huge role in this too, and that my heart was wanting to say but wasn't allowed because the head just wanted to do it all, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So in this moment in time of COVID-19, I got to be honest, and I guess it's got the great title of, how we do things in real time. I got smacked in the face again with, hey, I remember how eczema is. Well, this is how it is again. And so I felt really, pushed back. And it's so easy to fall into the role of, oh my gosh, I feel so sorry for myself. I have eczema now, and I'm a failure, and all of this, big things, and a lot of suffering as well. And then I realized, actually, what is the message in this? what is my skin trying to tell me? And like Grant and discussed in the interview with Mary O'Malley, it's about seeing the gift in the suffering, and when you go meta in the suffering, that's when you start actually realizing what's actually really going on here.
Yeah.
So it's you come, yeah, exactly, and you come from a lot more empowering place. And sure, like a few weeks ago when my skin was really bad, I had to resort back to cortisone and antihistamines, but I frame it differently now. I see it as you know, as a fire extinguisher, for instance, just so that I know that it helps. And then once the fires calm down, I can, you know, start assessing things again, because yeah, that's how I cope with it now. And I do a lot of braining balanced breathing, which is helping a lot to get the balance between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. So getting a real balance in your body again, so that the brains can have a chance to use this amazing highway of communication that they have. But it's not when you're in sympathetic, you know, must fix it, that you allow yourself to go there. So you have to really stop and breathe and actually assess, what is it that's going on for me here? Yeah, so I've had to deal with that again. And it's not been easy, because obviously I've learned, and I've been coached through that too, using mBraining, that everything skin related is very much gut related and autonomic nervous system related. And so it's a journey. It's not a quick fix, and it's not about fixing anything. It's about seeing the symptom as a gift, as to, yeah, and not feeling broken, but actually remembering always that we have all the resources that we need inside of us. Yeah, I hope that's
Curious,
answering.
this time round, having got the knowledge and then finding yourself back in that same position again, what was different this time?
Well, I think knowing that I've already been here before was comforting in a way, and that what was different is, I was kind of annoyed at myself first, that why is this happening to me again? But then I realized, actually, let's take a minute here and assess, and actually realize, you know, with mBraining balanced breathing, to really come down. And it takes, when you're so fired up, it doesn't take just one balanced breathing session. It takes a few days to really have that trust again, to know that I have all the tools. And so also knowing that my head is so good at wanting to fix everything, to wanting to make meaning of everything, and to acknowledge that and say, it's okay for me to think that, and what else? Let's go 1 level, 2 levels deeper.
So in hindsight, in those weeks before it flared, had your body spoken to you and given you some subtle signals?
It had, and it all suddenly kicked off with this whole COVID-19, like, disastrous media. Oh my gosh, what is happening? So I think it had, and I probably, and this is a lesson learned, you know, we're always learning, and the body is so wise, always. I actually, it probably did, but I missed the signal, and that's why it went it flared up again, and it's okay for me to miss it. And that's why I felt so suddenly, oh, I'm not good enough and all of this. But actually it's not about that. It's about it's happened, and now what? So being gentle on myself, that's huge when you have something like this going on, to cultivate compassion for yourself, and to actually say, I am more than good enough. And yeah.
So going the other side, I'm guessing before we met and, you know, you had the NLP and mBIT skills and stuff, you'd had eczema before.
Mm-hmm.
So what difference did having mBIT in the toolkit make, even though there was another flare? How was it different having either a different outlook, different perspective, different mindset, or having the physical skills to kind of get into your body?
Understanding deeply what the fire was all about, because when you have an eczema rash like I have, and even if it's a little one, I normally have like a as if like something is lit up inside of you, but it's not a healthy fire. You know, I'm not talking about the magical fire that you need to get going, etc. It's imbalance, and it's angry, and it's frustrated, and so it's actually understanding what is going on, and that was a complete imbalance. And that's why I love what Grant says about bliss pointing, you know, finding that bliss between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic, you know, and finding that, and that it's ever so subtle as well, that it can be very gentle. Yeah, I hope I'm answering the question. So
this is just a real conversation, right? It's just curiosity, and I'm guessing there'll be people listening who maybe haven't got eczema but have had something that recurs.
Yeah.
And as you said, sometimes that guilt of I must have done something wrong, or I didn't, you know. So real life is that a lot of people with chronic conditions, or even not even medical conditions, you know, finding yourself in the same difficult circumstance at work or whatever it is, I think that's a really interesting thing to kind of tease out in terms of how do you come back to it time and time again?
Yeah.
Each time a little bit different, with a little bit more learning, but as you say, no magic bullet. How do you keep going? How do you go, yeah, it might happen again, but that's okay? How do you embrace that gift that Mary O'Malley talks about?
Well, it's about being grateful that you've actually discovered the gift, because it's there to teach you something, and that we're constantly evolving, right? It's nothing static, and things are gonna go down, like COVID-19, and you know, and then my head goes, oh, well, then what next? Like, what's after COVID-19? And I'm like, whoa, let's just deal with what is now. So it's about taking stock, going, you know, this is how I feel, how do I want to feel instead, and not being so strict with yourself. I think not putting the bar so high. And also what is huge for me here, and sometimes when you feel I'm going to say when you feel like shit, you know, to actually go, it's okay for me to feel this way, and you know, I don't owe this to anybody but myself, you know. Yeah, I think, and it's about being curious about it as well, and not seeing it as I have to figure this out, because if I don't, then I'm a bad person. And it's because, and it's judging yourself too. So it's not because you have a reoccurring symptom that you are necessarily doing something wrong. It's actually also realizing that, and I've recently bought the book and I'm reading it, I'm in the middle of it, called The Highly Sensitive Person, and actually going, oh wow, so the way I experience life is heightened. My senses are heightened, and that's okay, because 20% of the general population are like me. and we also have something to gift. And the way it's come through, the way, if we're going to talk spiritually, my soul has decided to come to, I don't know, to show what's going on for me through my skin. And so on darker days, when you feel not so good, it's really important to remember that there's always a little gem in every shitty situation. And
has that kind of rippled out into your life wider than your skin?
In what way do you mean? Sorry.
Well, that learning. So there's always a little gem, to be curious, to be non-judgmental, to not be harsh with yourself. I'm guessing we're human patterning systems.
Yeah.
That will have shown up in other places in life as well.
Yeah. So for instance, I had the amazing opportunity to do a TEDx talk in February, which for me seems like years ago because we're on lockdown. And I think the curiosity of how am I gonna do this, and how can I share my message? I'm not a professional public speaker, and actually having the courage to.
You've got a TED talk. You are a professional public speaker now.
Thank you. Yeah. So before that, I think it's about believing and really wanting to share, and knowing that we all have an amazing uniqueness within us. And yeah, like I shared just before coming online, I had, obviously we all have choices all the time, don't we? And just before going onto the stage, I mean, I'm laughing now because I certainly wasn't when it happened. I was just about to go on stage and I had the feeling that I was literally going to throw up. My heart was racing and my gut was like, what on earth are you doing? This is just not a good idea. And the worry. And then I thought to myself, no. I stopped, and then I reminded myself that actually, the message is worth sharing, and I'm not doing this for myself, I'm doing this for the audience. And so I practiced the balanced breathing with two girls actually that were there standing with me. And then I just went. I didn't even think. I just physically went onto the stage, and then you're just there. So it's interesting what happens when you listen to the heart, and this is what Grant also says, right? The heart leads always, and that's what I did. In a split second, it was more doing and being, rather than just thinking of every potential catastrophe that could happen on stage.
None did.
Yeah, thankfully. Yeah.
Beautiful. So, any meaning you've made of your experience? So, in hindsight now, if that was the universe giving you a beautiful gift and lesson,
Mm-hmm.
what's the main takeaway of that, either meaning-wise or learning-wise?
Well, the first one is definitely not to take yourself too seriously. Remember to smile and to obviously take your whatever's going for you seriously, and to see it from a different perspective, because there's always a flip side, right? And to not get stuck with the negativity, but to stop, pause, and flip the coin, and also, like I say in my TEDx talk, to really embrace all of the parts that are you, to embrace the worrier that is there for a reason, and then so that you can embrace your worrier as well, because it's when we embrace all of our parts, our skin, you know, whatever is going for you at that moment, that's when we're one step closer to you know, stepping into our magic, because you see yourself as a full entity rather than seeing yourself as somebody who's broken, who needs fixed. And slowly, you know, picking out the wisdom nuggets that come with the different parts. Yeah.
Beautiful. Has it changed your values at all?
Well, that's a funny question, because because I was doing a lot of how do you call it in English? It's when you walk on eggshells. And again, I love that expression, because when I say that, I can hear the crunching of the eggshells. And it's about actually, first of all, what are values, and what even are your own values? Because as a previous, I'm going to say, people pleaser, you don't always connect with them. And this is what embraining has really taught me, to actually saying, and this is how we start our coaching sessions, right? So what's important to you? Because a lot of people don't even allow themselves to feel that way. So the values have shifted for me.
And they often do after a big life event, right? That's why we ask the question. Often we don't stop to kind of recognize and notice what's changed or how it's changed. But I just wondered if in asking the question whether there was, oh yeah, actually, this is much more important to me now, and maybe this is less important to me now.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think trust is a huge one. Trusting yourself, and then once you have that, you can, you know, trust others too.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's, I think, and being true to yourself, and being courageous, being able to say no when you mean it, and not to, because that's huge. I felt it so much when I go against myself. That's when my skin goes, whoa, what's going on?
Wow.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, just that little nugget is massive, like real wisdom for you.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, because it's learning to be authentically you, right? And actually embracing your vulnerability, like Brené Brown always says, to see it as a courageous act to be vulnerable, to actually feel vulnerable, to feel the feeling, and then and to then go with that, is super empowering, actually, because then you're like, oh wow, I have a voice and I can do this, and I'm worthy, I can do it, and then everything just changes. It creates a really nice momentum.
And that's what the TED Talk was all about, right? Was you doing that with a bigger why, the bigger why to also empower and inspire other people to be able to do that.
Even although I was really nervous doing the talk, because I watched it again this morning before doing jumping on this with you guys, and I'm like a big sense of like proudness of going, I did that, and like you say, showing people that you don't have to be, you know, the president of the United States or another super important person to share what's important to you, because we all share uniqueness, and everybody can benefit from that, because what's personal is universal. So and everything is energy as well. So
And what you wanted to get across was being real and trusting and doing it anyway. So the fact that you were a bit nervous, that's kind of perfect, because it was real.
Yeah, for sure. You can say that again. Yeah.
Awesome.
Lovely.
Mm.
One of the questions that we asked people was inspired by Grant, no surprise there, but one of the questions in the Loving Your Life journey, and that's what's the most profound experience to date that you have had of loving your life?
Oof. I think that's hard. Well, I guess even though it sounds cheesy or whatever, it's life experience. It's everything. I guess it's everything related to my skin. You know, I don't know, that I can't really pinpoint just one experience. I think that the TEDx talk was pretty much the biggest thing where I had to, if I wasn't loving the message that I was wanting to share, and the message was what I have lived so far, so I guess I could, you know, encompass that in that, then I wouldn't have been able to do it, because my heart wouldn't have been in it. Yeah. So
Lovely. So we've talked about your experience with eczema, and we talked about how embraining's really supported you and helped you move through that.
mm-hmm.
How, and this is the, you know, how do you do mBing? How do you lead from the heart every day? How do you incorporate it into who you are as a person, rather than part of your toolkit?
Yep. So do you mean like on a daily basis?
Yeah. And you know, we do it at different times. Sometimes we're more aware of it than others. Sometimes we draw on our tools because we're going through something and it's something that helps us through that. But one of the things that, you know, I'm becoming more and more aware of is that actually, you know, balanced breathing is something I do unconsciously now. I find myself doing it all the time. Noticing how my body feels in any given situation, responding to it and asking what's going on is something that now is something I just do.
Yeah.
And then there are the things like I consciously choose to practice balanced breathing in the morning when I wake up, or, you know, do more conscious sessions, if you know what I mean. And then there are times I have
completely.
But how has it become part of who you are now?
So I think I just, because I'm always somebody who wants to know, but why does that work, and what is it that's happening at that very moment? And so for me, when I know that I'm not being when I'm not being as good as I can be, and using mBraining on a daily basis, a very easy tool for me is to notice my breathing, but where it is. So it'll be up here. And I go, okay, right. And so, and instead of just trying to figure out why, I just go into, like you said, you know, doing the mBraining balanced breathing, which requires you to use more of your chest, you know, and which then pushes your tummy out, etc. And the effect is pretty instant. And I can feel, you know, the breath become obviously more part of my body, rather than just being up here. Music as well has become a very soothing anchor. I mean, it always has, but even more so with embraining, because I'm understanding what it does in my body. And I welcome, you know, I smile then now when I have shivers down my spine, when I hear a piece of music. I'm like, ooh, you know, it has allowed me to be a lot more grateful and not take things too much, you know, for granted. Because I think when we take things too much for granted, life just fleets, you know, you're less present. And I think also movement for me is big. When I move and flex my body, when I go for a walk, that's when I start to have lots of ideas. And from an embraining point of view, that's not just a coincidence anymore. It's because we are moving, and I wish I could be as good as Grant in explaining why exactly. Maybe Suzanne can assist here. but it's actually, it's being grateful. And I know it sounds really cheesy, but actually we have this amazing vessel, this amazing body that we are using to experience this human life, and we can do so much with it, and to be grateful for that. So that's, I guess, how I do embraining on a daily basis. Yeah,
I think it's a beautiful expression of I wouldn't change it at all.
Definitely. Suzanne asked you earlier whether your values had changed, but I want to ask you, what is your real core value?
It's a tough one, because I had to reflect on that, and I think that's interesting, my head getting in the way there.
Put your hand on your heart and ask your heart what your core value is.
I think it's being true to myself, and I feel that too. Thanks, head. It is about being true to myself, that, you know, on honoring that truth. I'm making up words here. That truthness that everybody has, that is unique to all of them, to all of us.
Beautiful.
Because I know for sure that when you go against that, it's not pretty. Mm-hmm. And you can ignore it, and a lot of people do, unfortunately. And unfortunately, a lot of people are realizing that you have an option to do it differently, that it is possible to be true to you, whatever that might be, and that you don't need to justify yourself to anybody, actually, but to yourself. So I'm still on that journey. And in a way that's really a relief, because it's not by the end of today I need to be true to myself, because otherwise I'm a failure. And then
and you're a human becoming. We're evolving every day, we're changing every day.
Exactly.
We get to explore who we are and who we're becoming, and that never ends. That's one of the beautiful adventurings of it all. Yes, and straight after that is definitely the curiosity that is so big, and for me that's so important, to be curious without judgment, and to ask yourself, so what is it that's really going on here? And to, instead of saying, when we think and feel something, to go, oh, this is shit, why do I feel like this? To go, that's interesting. And what else? To see it from a meta position, more than just to have these great self-talk, self-destructive thoughts coming in.
Whoever had self-destructive thoughts, Emilie? Come on.
Nobody.
We don't know anyone that does that.
No.
Okay, if you had a favourite saying or meme or piece of wisdom, what would it be?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's bliss pointing. It's, yeah, because it's ever so subtle, but it's extremely powerful, and it can happen all the time. And for me, when there's this bliss pointing, when you're just at the top of the curve, that's, for me, that's when the magic happens, when when you're in flow.
Beautiful.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely. What does integrity mean to you? How do you practice and cultivate it? You've just talked about, being your true self. Is integrity different to you, or is it?
Integrity is not just like a thing that you do and then you don't do it. I think it's a journey as well, and to be able to live life with integrity, you have to start with knowing what are your values, because if you don't know what your values are, then how can you know, how can you be, live life with integrity? And so it's about aligning your brains, going, okay, what does head have to say to that? What is, obviously the values, it's that's where in our heart, that's where our values sit. And how can we act with the two other brains? How can we act with that? And obviously, needless to say, with the autonomic nervous system and the sex brain too, but we could go into detail and we could lose ourselves there. But I think it's when you're in alignment with yourself, when you know, and interesting that I'm just fixing my posture there as well. I think I feel, yeah, like, oh, try being integral when you're all slumped like this. It's I think, allowing your brains to be aligned and to live life from your heart as well. And again, that's with the entrainment, right? It's so powerful. Even doing this feels really empowering to me, and calming. So for me, that's what being integral is about. And it's not easy. I'm not saying it's it is a journey, and it's about having firm boundaries for yourself and being able to live with those boundaries. And again, that's something that I'm still learning for myself. It's not an easy task to be able to say no when you really mean it, because
such a metaphor for your skin there, Emilie.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, thanks for the memo, Suzanne. Yeah,
couldn't resist pointing that out. Having firm boundaries, living within your boundaries, being okay with your boundaries.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. This is going to be hard as an avid reader, but one book recommendation, just one.
I think the book, because I had to really sit with that, because as you say, there's so many to choose from. But I think the one that is very that people can get a lot out from is Braving the Wilderness by Brené Brown.
Brené Brown.
Because she, I don't know, I guess you could have guessed already by now, I'm a huge fan of her. She's so real. She swears when she wants to swear, and she just says things how it is. And she teaches you how to to give you comfort, when you want to act a certain way but you feel like you can't, and then changing the frame completely by saying, actually, when you feel vulnerable, it's a courageous act to be in that situation. And I think she talks about the sense of true belonging, and it's actually, she talks about the journey of belonging to yourself and to the outside. It's this, for me, it's this bliss pointing of finding that place that is right for you and that is unique to everybody. So I highly recommend reading that book, Braving the Wilderness.
One of my favorite. Everything by Brené is my favorite book.
I know, she's awesome.
If we had a magic wand, not that this is about magic wands because we don't, but if we did, and you could change one thing in the world, what would it be?
I took notes for this because it was quite a big question.
I think we need to stop sending these out, Suzanne.
Yeah, I think we should surprise people.
Yeah.
It's at the end, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think for me, there it is again. If I had a magic wand, I would love it for people to realize how powerful their heart is, and what would happen if they actually tap into that on a daily basis and taking decisions with their whole body rather than just their head. Because unfortunately, we're born into head societies, and we've seen now, unfortunately, where this has gotten us, which isn't an ideal place. But I still have hope. Sounds so dramatic, but I think really we can make a difference if we tap into this very precious, part of our body, our heart, and so yeah. If I would have a magic wand, I'd do a quick swish and break the walls around people's hearts so they can live with that very powerful part of themselves too, without being shut down. I think it would make a huge difference in today's world.
Beautiful.
It would. Thank
I
you.
almost want to stop there because it's such a nice place to end, but I'm curious what you're going to come out with for the last one. So bearing in mind we don't have a magic wand and people do just have their own power and their own wisdom. Yeah. If you had 30 seconds to tell them the most important thing, what would it be?
To see whatever's going on for you, be it eczema or whatever symptom that you have, as a gift, because it is a gift. It's about being curious as to what it is, and stop taking yourself so seriously all the time. And remember, even at this time of COVID-19, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is unfortunately just the beginning of a change that we are experiencing, to be as present as you can during every day, and to be grateful, and live life compassionately with your heart for yourself, so that you can just automatically beam it around you too. Because as I said at the beginning,
use of 30 seconds, can I just say?
Sorry, not sorry.
It was lovely to hear it. I'm glad I did ask that last question.
Yeah, me too.
Emilie, it's been an absolute pleasure. I could sit and talk to you for hours more, but I know that people don't want to listen for too long, so we'll just have to have you back later down in the series.
Maybe thank you for having me.
Well, it's been our pleasure, having a TED talker on the podcast. Whoa. And that TED talk, I know, is going to come out into the public domain in the very near future. We really recommend people keep an eye open for that and listen to Emilie's story, Worrier to Warrior, an amazing story that goes way back beyond what we spoke about today. Started when you were very little, I know. And so, yeah, really recommend you getting the link for that when it comes out, having a listen, and connecting with Emilie if you want to know more about her journey. Emilie, where's the best place people can get in touch with you?
I have a website, which is emiliejanson.com, emiliejansoncoaching.com.
Excuse me. Say
Say
that again. I sneezed just in the middle of your how you get in touch with you. Real life, real life.
It is real life. And bless you, Suzanne. So emiliejansoncoaching.com is my website. So you can go to the contact section there and contact me there. Facebook as well. If you type in Emilie Janson Coaching, I should normally come up. And then I've got a handle as well on Instagram, which is Emilie Janson Coaching. So yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Have a lovely day. I know it's daytime there. I'm nighttime here. So I'm at the end of my day, and as I say, we'll have you back, and I'm sure there'll be so much learning from the COVID experience, that because of what you've been through and because of the learning you've already gone through, you will see that in a different way to a lot of other people. So it'd be lovely to get your learnings and thoughts of that down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure was all ours and our audiences. Thank you so much.